Hey guys, it's Darth Terminus here, and I've got a reissue of my early game Corvette builds video from last year. I haven't made any videos over the last year because I've had a lot going on with my life, but hopefully I can get back into the workflow and get that destroyer video I promised y'all up and running soon. I already have it outlined, I just got to get everything set up for it, which is a big reason that I picked up this campaign that I've got started today. It's really just for demonstration purposes. But let's go ahead and get into it. So what we've got today is we're just going to go back over the Corvette builds that I talked about previously. So if you go down here to your ship designer, here we are in the ship designer itself. I've got 3 different Corvette builds here. We've got an interceptor. Now this is going to be your base build in any Stellaris campaign. Open it up, you're going to get a generic interceptor like this. I haven't touched this design at all. To put it simply, it's bad. Like, there could be worse design options, but your generic run-of-the-mill interceptor that you get at the start of the game, not good. Its average damage is low. It doesn't have good alpha strike potential, which currently in the console edition's fleet meta, alpha strikes are the most important part. Because the range on this is just terrible. And it's not the most economically viable. See, for the price of this ship right now, it's 75 alloys, all base options. You know, you think it's got a decent option when it comes to the defenses because it's got armor plating and shields. But I'm gonna go to another design that I've got down here, which is a picket ship that is more economically viable, but it's still not the best option in the game. And the reason this one's more economically viable is, one, I do have some technologies research that discount ship costs, but even without those technologies, this is more economically viable because the individual components are lower cost. See, if I did the same build with the armor, it costs just as much, but deflectors are better than armor overall because, as you can see, the deflector piece itself, it's cheaper. It's cheaper on alloy cost. Like the nano composite armor is 7.5 alloys. This is 3.75 alloys. This is literally half the cost. Shields also regenerate daily. Armor does not. Armor points, I think armor, like hull points, only are regenerated when you have your ships dock at a station to repair. And picket ships in general are actually worse than the interceptor because picket weapons, they're terrible. They're only really good for defending against strike craft and missiles, which in your first 30 years are probably not going to be a huge issue if you encounter them at all. Now, one thing that I do want to point out, though, I do think I have some advanced combat computers here. So if you get the option to research combat roles, definitely do, because these give you additional bonuses. You're always going to want to run, though, with Corvettes. I'm going to go down here to my final one to properly demonstrate this. Now, what you're going to do here is, if you have the option to have advanced combat roles, always take Swarm. Or actually, now that I think about it, having higher tracking might be of use as well. You know what? Let's actually. I'm actually going to change my mind. Let's go with the picket computer because it gives your ships better tracking, and it's still going to keep them within range. Now, like I said, you want the most economically viable, and this right here is about as cheap as it's going to get. I have the now this is going to be like your starting game. So starting game, you're just going to have the basic combat computer. This is going to be base cost. It's the same as the base cost, but you have a longer engagement range, which is essential for the alpha strike. You'll have a big volley of missiles come in at your targets, and then you'll have your main gun to soften them up once you get in range. Now I'm running kinetics here, you really should adjust this based on what you're encountering. If you're encountering more armor and less shields in your opponents, then run energy weapons. I'm only running kinetics right now because missiles have shield penetration, so I want to be able to burn through any shields that they have once I get in range for the main guns, because the missiles will take care of the rest. We are going to go ahead and upgrade these, though, to technology that I do have available. Level 2 missiles, level 2 kinetics, and we'll upgrade to a level 2 fusion reactor, and we'll go ahead and take off that reactor booster. As you can see, it's really still fairly economically viable. We'll go ahead and save the design. I'll go ahead and delete these other two designs out of the shipbuilder, and we'll get an upgrade, not an upgrade, a retrofit underway for our military fleet. Because we're right on the verge of being able to, or well, no, we won't. We won't go ahead and upgrade. I don't have the alloys, at least not currently. And we have ourselves a war already started, so I can go ahead and demonstrate what these, what the fights on this is like. I'm wondering why it's not letting me go in here.
Anomalous surface variable detected.
But we're gonna go ahead and get our fleet deployed, so that way I can demonstrate missile boats versus picket ships. If you want a demonstration of how picket ships do in combat, you can look at the previous video. They did okay, but compared to missile boats, because I've had a long time to relearn the ship meta, like missile boats just do a lot better in your opening engagements.
System survey complete.
Got a lot going on in this campaign. But we're gonna go ahead and get our ships into enemy territory so you can see those demonstrations of what that's like. Now, once they come in here, you're gonna see them open up with that Alpha Strike on the space station.
Asset engaged.
Should probably slow time down. I said slow it down. So I'll have to really we'll have to see this come out in the next system. So we'll speed this back up. Because as you can see, we just kind of steamrolled over that station because there were no defenses. This one, I think there might be this one, even though there's also no defenses, because this is, again, still very early game. As you can see, we're within our first 15 years. To kind of expedite the process, I did, you know, I am using gameplay settings to accelerate my rate of technological development. But all of this stuff will work the same for the, for like any kind of the base, for like just base settings too. Because we're also running with base technology on this entire fleet composition. So this is completely viable for within your first 30 years of gameplay. Now, once the Corvette fleet gets in here, as you can see, here we are. Once they get in range, they're going to open with a volley of missiles that are going to go right towards that space station. See, there's the missile volley that goes. That's the power of the Alpha Strike. Especially, and it works really well with Corvettes because they can swarm really well. See, now they're going out to form that line. Or actually, I think they still just have base swarm tactics, so they're really just going to swarm around this thing like hungry mosquitoes. Now, this is the home system of this empire, which will be featured in an upcoming campaign that I'll be live streaming on my Twitch at some point in the future.
Alert. Science unit offline.
Sorry about that. But now we'll be able to show you what an actual engagement between fleets looks like. It's not gonna be a good one because there's 3 of their ships and I have 36. But the crucial point is that Alpha Strike. Once the fleet arrives, sorry, have a stutter. then they'll hit from a larger range, and they'll honestly probably cripple this fleet.
System survey complete.
But that's really all there is to it. Picket ships are gonna get like picket ships and interceptors are gonna get in a much more like close quarters brawl. Whereas your missile boats, because they have that much longer range, you'll be able to do a lot more and have a lot more combat effectiveness with your fleet engagements. And see, we've already taken out their entire fleet. They're basically defenseless now. So that's really all there is to it with your early game. Now, obviously, as you get more advanced technology, you can upgrade these same designs, but you want to keep that same principle of adapting your main weapon to the types of resistances you encounter, and keeping a missile configuration running, so that way you have that long-range Alpha Strike. And until the ship meta changes for consoles, the Alpha Strike is really what should be your main focus in ship design. Keeping yourself being able to engage at long range, and keep your ships at a longer range than your opponents to keep them out of harm's way. And the longer you can keep that kind of dynamic going, the better you'll do, especially in your early game warfare. But that's really all there is to early game Corvettes. I hope you guys have found this useful, and I will see you guys in a week with that Corvette video. Or not Corvettes, with the Destroyers video, where we talk more about destroyer designs and destroyer design philosophy. Again, just like the previous video, everything that we're talking about applies to the console edition to the game. The ship meta has completely changed on the PC edition of the game, so unless you're playing an older version of the PC game, a lot of what we talked about today is not going to apply to you, unfortunately. And when the ship meta does change for consoles, I'll be sure to clue you guys in on that and keep everything up to date with how to adjust your fleet designs for your early, middle, and late game phases. Until then, this is Darth Terminus, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.